What is the digital nomad lifestyle and what does it mean to be critical of it? My name is Beverly Yuen Thompson. I'm a sociology professor, and one of my research topics is looking at tourism studies, and specifically I wrote a lot and researched the digital nomad lifestyle. I especially spent time in that community back in my last sabbatical in 2017 and subsequently wrote a book and many academic articles on the topic. And I came at it from a critical perspective. And so in this video, what I wanted to do is talk about my 10 top critiques of the digital nomad lifestyle in no particular order. So the digital nomad lifestyle is especially prevalent among the millennial generation when I was looking at it. And so back when I was interviewing folks, they were basically folks in their perhaps late 20s, early 30s. They are people from Western nations, high-income countries, the United States, Europe, UK, Australia. And they're just really unsatisfied with how life is turning out for them in their home country because they went to college, they pursued all the right things. These are very, middle-class white folks who were promised everything by their parents, and then things are just not going well from them in their early professional life where they can barely make ends meet. They got a lot of student loan debt perhaps. They can't really afford to ever foreseeably buy a house and just enter that kind of middle-class lifestyle that their parents were able to achieve. And so what they see in front of them is just this life of drudgery, working in some corporation 9 to 5 and never being able to attain those kinds of middle-class markers. And so the digital nomad lifestyle is something they stumble onto while they're mindlessly scrolling at work, and they see YouTube videos or Instagram posts of beautiful people with a laptop on a beach saying anyone can achieve this lifestyle, all you have to do is have the will. And they talk about all these key concepts and terms of passive income and all of this. These are people that seek out remote work, and then with their remote work they're able to be untethered from a particular employment location, and they use that freedom to travel the world. And so ultimately, like within any subculture, there's always a hierarchy. And so within the digital nomad subculture, the hierarchy is based on those people who can be the most remote, 100% remote. They don't own an apartment or a house, they don't have a home back in their home country, and they just travel endlessly and for the foreseeable future. And so they rent Airbnbs, they go to co-working spaces, they hang out with other expats and travelers like themselves, and they think they're living the dream. They post these glamorous images on social media. And so in this video, I'm going to get into my top 10 critiques of this lifestyle and how it's presented in the social media. So one of my top critiques of digital nomads is that they never ever learn the language of the place that they stay in. Now I'm talking about English speakers in particular. There's a big digital nomad community of German speakers, which I don't pretend to know anything about. But in speaking about English speakers, these digital nomads often go to locations that are friendly to English speakers. What does that mean? Usually that means that there was a history of colonialization in that particular location, and now those countries' economies have transitioned into a pro-tourism economy to attract the same Westerners that, a long time ago were they were colonized by. And so the fact that you can speak English only in these countries has a historic legacy of colonialism that they are continuing to exploit. The whole world does pander to English speakers because in order to get those tourist dollars, you must speak English. And therefore, a lot of people in these host tourist countries, by economic necessity, learn English. Now I asked my digital nomads, did you learn the language? And basically the only people that ever learned any additional languages were people whose first language was itself not English, and so therefore they had to learn English as a second or a third language. None of my interviewees whose English was a first language attempted to learn a second language, except for one. who did actually move to Central America and just live there permanently. The reason why you would learn a language, or even just some basic phrases, say that you learn 10 basic phrases, it's about respect. It's about showing that you respect the local community and culture, that you're making the most minimal efforts possible to just learn how to say hello, or where's the bathroom, or thank you. So it's just about a sign of recognizing that culture. Using Google Translate on your phone does not show that same effort. It shows no effort. And also, when you start to learn a language, you really learn all about the history and the culture and the colloquialisms and what that place is about. And it also encourages you to stay there longer. And so that is also one of the things that I would encourage digital nomads, is to slow travel. Take your time, spend more time in a place and actually get to know it. And one of the first things you can do is learn the language. Number 2, not connecting with the local people. This, of course, follows not learning the local language. My second critique of digital nomads is that they don't really get to know the local people. And I always ask them that in the interviews. Did you become friends or get to know local people? And they always point to the service workers, like, oh yeah, I went to this coffee shop and that person was always very nice to me and that's my friend. No, service workers are not your friend, especially if they're making money off you, if they're hoping for a tip or just some income from you. And it's their job to be nice to you if they're working in a restaurant or a cafe. A friend is someone that is mutual, that you both get to know each other, that you know about their life, that you go into their house, that you get to know their family, that kind of thing. And so I'm also critical of digital nomads for not getting to know local people. Number 3 is similar in just that the digital nomads I interviewed were not interested in getting to know the local culture, history, and the social context in which they were a guest. They ended up in exclusive spaces that were reserved for travelers because of a paywall, because they were going to these co-working spaces or living in Airbnbs that were just a lot more expensive than local places where local people would go. And so just by default of where they were comfortable living and hanging out, they would find themselves among other travelers, expats, and other foreigners and Westerners just like themselves. And so the only contact that they had with local people was as service providers. Number 4 critique of digital nomads is that they do tend to still stick to the tourist track. They go where English is spoken, they go to popular tourist destinations, and so they're not going to a lot of places that are off the tourist track. They're not going to a lot of African nations. In South America, they might go to Medellin, Colombia, but they're not going to other places in Latin America like Paraguay, or just places that would be less English spoken. They're going to these tourist places, and really they have the opportunity to explore countries that few tourists go to, and to really break through and go to some interesting places, but they rarely do. They just go to Mexico City, to the digital nomad hotspots, and of course Thailand and Chiang Mai is considered ground zero for digital nomads. So critique number 4 is just that they choose the tourist track over more interesting off-tourist track locations where they can really educate their social media followers on other places. I'm also critical of digital nomads for being scam artists. The vibe of the digital nomad community also comes across as like a MLM, a multi-level marketing scheme or a Ponzi scheme, because a lot of people jump into this lifestyle with no plan at all. And so there's a lot of different digital nomad conferences. So basically, people want to jump into this lifestyle. They have no plan, they have no money. And so they find on YouTube that there's there's videos about like how to make passive income, make money while you sleep, anyone can be a digital nomad. And so that in itself, they're selling content on how to become a digital nomad. They're trying to make money on selling the lifestyle in order to make money to sustain their own lifestyle in the digital nomad community. And a lot of people fall for this. A lot of people just quit their job and go to Chiang Mai, Thailand, and think that they're gonna figure it out. And a lot of people I interviewed did jump into it this way. And so they start by doing things like drop shipping, you know, having a website where you can sell trinkets that are shipped out of China. You have to drive traffic to your website. I mean, those things didn't really work out. And the people that I interviewed were barely making any money at all. They might make $1,000 a month. And so yeah, you could perhaps live in Thailand for that, but that's absolutely nothing in your home country of the United States, for example. So they are kind of, they're spam artists. They're, you know, you should not give your email to these folks because they want to sell you the digital ebook on how to become a digital nomad. They want to sell you their online course on how to become a digital nomad. They want to sell you these get-rich-quick schemes. A lot of just that get-rich-quick energy. You know, there's a whole industry selling those kinds of books, selling those kind of conferences. And these folks also organize conferences, and I attended some. And so these conferences are put on to make money for those digital nomads running the conference, and they're taking the money from these aspiring digital nomads who are being led into this community without having their eyes open to what's really happening. And there's not a lot of critical take on this community, and so that is what I'm trying to provide. So number 6 critique I have of the digital nomad community is that they're not staying in a place and creating a community. Indeed, they're very focused on themselves. This lifestyle is very self-focused, you know, it's about achieving your dreams. It's about what do you want? What you want to do? Your fantasies and desires of living. And it's not about your responsibility as a citizen, as a global citizen, as a person in a community, as a person in a family or a network. And so these folks, I mean, by necessity, they were able to leave their home countries. That means they're not taking care of dependent parents. They don't have children. I mean, at the Digital Nomad conferences, there's always panels on how you can be a family and have children and still, you know, homeschool your children and be a family on the road. I did not meet any digital nomads who had children and were making it happen. Like, yeah, of course, there's content out there on that, but it's not practical. And having a kid, by definition, roots you to a place. The kid needs to go to school, go to the doctor. The kid needs a community. By definition, the digital nomad lifestyle does not form a community. Now, they might form a community with other digital nomads in online spaces, in Facebook groups, where they communicate with each other, but that's very insular. I'm talking about creating community in the places that you go to and you are a guest in that country, and that it should be mutual. You should be giving back to the place that you go to and really coming to a place of care for your host country and for the people of that place. And so they're not giving back to those places where they visit. And part of not wanting to be part of a community is that a lot of another topic that is popular at these digital nomad conferences is how to avoid paying taxes. And so paying taxes means paying for the infrastructure of your home country. You know, taxes are supposed to do something for society. And so the attitude of not wanting to pay taxes means, like, how can you be really selfish basically and retain all your money for yourself and not give back to anything, not give back to your home country, for example, even though you're using those resources, you're driving on those roads, you're using those hospitals, you know, all of these public institutions, education, and so on. So you're taking and you don't want to give back. My 7th critique is that they post vapid social media content, and it's all the same, and it's so boring. Beautiful people with a laptop in front of a pool on the beach. I'm working from the beach. It's all looks like glamorous marketing material, and indeed it is. These folks are basically being tourism marketers, and they're posting happy, shiny content that all looks the same. It's all featuring a beach and a blue sky and a pool, a beautiful person in a bikini, and there's always the laptop. Like, do you know how impractical it is to work on a laptop from a beach? Like, it just, the sun, it doesn't work, you know? Like, that's not functional. But that is an image that is reproduced over and over. And that's why I asked the publisher of my book on digital nomadism to make sure you do not use that image, and that I wanted the cover of my book to reflect some of the gloominess of this lifestyle. They are portraying a lifestyle online that is not accurate even to themselves as individuals. And the social media posts often feature themselves in their own joy rather than featuring the location and more of a historic and cultural glimpse into that society, because they don't put the effort and time to really learn more about that culture, read books about that culture, which I'm trying to do myself while I'm currently traveling in Southeast Asia. My number 8 critique is that actually these folks are quite depressed. They have mental health issues. They are lonely. They're sad. They are stressed out. There's a lot of negativity and negative experiences and emotions with the digital nomad lifestyle, but you rarely see that being posted on the social media. When I talked to digital nomads and interviewed them, I mean, so many of them talked about suffering from depression, anxiety disorders. They were lonely for sure. Like, loneliness was the top of the bad mental feelings that these folks were suffering, because they're always saying goodbye to the new friends that they made. So they're always breaking these connections with people. So they are definitely very lonely. But besides being lonely, underneath that, they're depressed. They suffer from anxiety. They have a lot of mental health issues that they're not portraying. And it's not like you need to portray that, but also you're basically portraying the complete opposite of the reality of your experience. And right now, currently, I'm traveling through Southeast Asia on my sabbatical, and I'm trying to get work done as I travel, as I sightsee, and I find that it's nearly impossible, really. It's really, really a difficult lifestyle to both travel, see things, and try to get work done and have some kind of semblance of normality or stability in your life. So this lifestyle is actually very, very difficult, and to do it 100% would be almost impossible. And I estimate that people don't stay in this lifestyle for long. There's very few digital nomads that really can make a long-term, say 10-year lifestyle out of this. Some folks might do it for a few years, but then something by necessity is going to ground you. You get into a relationship, you get a job that's location-based. I mean, by necessity, these folks, you know, they might be on the dating apps, they might be dating other Westerners, they might be dating locals, but they want to keep traveling. And so it's in opposition to establishing relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, or a sense of a community. My number 9 critique is their concept of geo-arbitrage, which is a term that seems to originate within the digital nomad community. And it basically says, you know, make as much money as possible exploiting your Western country of origin opportunities, and so have some kind of remote job that is based in your home country and that makes some kind of minimum entry-level salary, which is not good if you're in the United States or Australia, but it is very good if you're living in Thailand. And so then you take that salary and then you go to the cheapest location possible to live, go to Cambodia, and then live, you know, like a king, live your best life. That concept itself just shows how it's about personal maximum gain at potentially the detriment of the local community. Because if you're living in Airbnbs, if you're bringing in your Western money, then those local economies are going to pivot to try to attract foreigners and therefore the prices are going to go up for locals. And my number 10 critique is that a lot of digital nomads by necessity are breaking labor laws. In these digital nomad conferences, they don't hide the fact that they are breaking the law and encouraging others to openly violate the law. If you have a remote job in the United States, that employer probably does not want their employees, or is not allowed to have their employees, live in a different country. And so some employers might be more strict about this than others. Perhaps your employer just doesn't even know. Perhaps you use a VPN and you say that you are located in the United States. But you're not supposed to be working for an American company while living in Thailand. Now, some of these countries, these tourist-oriented countries like Thailand, and there's about 15 or 20 countries now that are providing digital nomad visas. So these countries are trying to capture that market and appeal to that market by providing visas for digital nomads. But a digital nomad visa is completely against the digital nomad lifestyle, because it's providing a long-term visa for you to stay rooted in one country. And the countries themselves who are hosting these visas, how they benefit is they're thinking that they want the digital nomad to stay during the off-tourist season. And so some of these visas even stipulate that you must stay in the country for 8 months out of the year, what have you, so that they are trying to retain some revenue during the low season for tourism. But the digital nomad lifestyle is about travel. And so you don't want to just move to Thailand for 10 years and stay there. You want to keep traveling. So it doesn't quite make sense. And you hear digital nomads saying terms like a visa run. And so that means that they're on a tourist visa in Thailand, for example. Maybe they have 90 days. And so they're going to cross the border and come back and get a new tourist visa. And so they are working on a tourist visa, and that is breaking the law. And they're encouraging others to do that, and so that is problematic. So those are 10 of my critiques of the digital nomad lifestyle. There's not a lot of information that provides a critical perspective on the digital nomad lifestyle. And so that's what I'm providing, and that's what a lot of academic literature provides. But it's hard to find that on YouTube and outside of the academic literature. I'll have a link below where I made a video about all my academic publications on the topic, which you can access. And so I really wanted to post some content that provides a critical lens on the digital nomad lifestyle.